So my name is Winter Peach. Thank you so much for having me today. Just a bit of a brief background before I go into the slides. I am a Merit America alumna. I finished the program in October, November of last year. That's when we started transitioning into our job success phase. And so I'm still pretty recently out. I'm within the year that I graduated from the program. My cohort started last July, so still like really kind of fresh. So right now I am a data tech advisor at Merit America. I was previously a data analyst at United Way of West Florida before I moved up here. I'm currently in the application interviewing process with the United Way in Portland, Maine for a database administrator job. Still waiting to kind of finish hearing back on that, but that's sort of the path that I've took job-wise since I got out of the program. And I'm also enrolled at Western Governors University, currently studying cybersecurity. And I come from a non-traditional education background myself. And as I said, I graduated from the Merit America program last year. So Merit America's mission and everything that we're trying to do here is really important to me and like really personal to me. I do not have my CISSP. That is part of the degree program that I'm in, is getting that, but I'm not quite there yet. Question in the chat that I saw. So my day-to-day is really busy. Working for Merit America as a data tech advisor, I manage all of our chat channels, our collab channel, our ticket channel in Slack, looking for things to like help with learners on if they have a direct question, if they're just kind of like bouncing ideas off of each other. I also respond to DMs from learners reaching out directly with issues, as well as hosting one-on-ones with learners and then group sessions as well. So that's a really busy job, kind of moving in lots of different directions. Obviously, if you're in the Merit America program with data, you know that we cover lots of different topics. We do SQL, we do Tableau, R programming, just data analysis and the sort of data governance process in general. So really busy there. Prior to the move to Maine a couple of months ago, when I was also working for United Way, I was doing both of those jobs at once. So my role for United Way was just titled data analyst, and it was really sort of wear a lot of hats, just do like general data stuff, whatever anybody needed. The United Way branch down there never had a data person before me, so it was kind of just like everyone was sort of involved in the data stuff, but nobody really knew what they were doing, and they were looking for someone to kind of come on and get some like order to things and get some process improvements and just kind of like general upgrades to the way that they handled data. So my job there was primarily involved working with Excel and then a customer relationship management database that we use called EC Impact. And I would basically input data into EC Impact. I would pull it out using SQL, and I would import it into a spreadsheet in Excel where I would clean it up and make it really pretty, and then I would deliver it to a department. So it might have been like the finance department or the marketing department. They needed what we would call a report. And so I would go in the system and generate the report out of it and then clean it up in Excel and give it to them in a way that they could kind of read and understand it. And that's really a lot of what being a data analyst is sort of about, is kind of figuring out ways to take data that's confusing and doesn't really make sense and deliver it to someone who's maybe not very data literate, and just give it to them in a way that they can draw their own conclusions, they can use it to whatever end they need, and lots of different things. I think the most common one that I was involved with was marketing. So it might be easy to see like how data can be involved, and maybe should we advertise here more? Should we focus more on our Facebook involvement, or like maybe go towards a different social media, things like that. So just kind of wanted to give an overview of like day-to-day what being a data analyst at United Way and then a data tech advisor at Merit America is like. Having a job in data, you can do a lot of different things. You can move in a lot of different directions. It's not really prescribed. So it's really exciting when you get out into the the job market and you start looking around, you'll see a million different job titles that you're going to be interested in and looking at. Okay, so prior to joining Merit America, I worked in the real estate lending field. I was a loan officer briefly and a mortgage processor. I was a mortgage closer for a little bit, and that was a lot of customer service, some back end handling numbers and doing like some calculations, working with Excel spreadsheets a little bit. But the main part of the job was always like on the phones, building relationships, doing customer service, even doing kind of like sales kind of things. So that's sort of my background and where my background was. And the industry in mortgage is really volatile. I joined the mortgage industry when things were kind of taking off and the market was exploding, and it was really great. But I knew that that was not going to last forever, and I needed to find something more safe and secure, and I wanted to move into tech forever. So I saw an ad for Merit America on TikTok, and I thought it didn't really make sense. Like, it sounded like this is too good to be true, but I couldn't really figure out how it wasn't. So I applied for the data analytics program. This was in like February, March of last year, and I was accepted into the October cohort. However, shortly after I was accepted into that, I was let go from my job in mortgage. The company that I worked for basically just eliminated all their remote positions and was downsizing to like a third of their staff. And shortly after that, it was like the day or two after I received the news from my job, I got an email from Merit, and they said, hey, we have a few spots open in a cohort that starts in a couple of weeks. Would you be willing to move up from the October start? So it was really just like perfect timing for me. I was really excited. And got in and went through the program. And as we started going through job success, you know, you're applying to a lot of jobs. You're kind of trying to cast a really wide net and sort of see where you get bites and where you should sort of focus your energy. And I wasn't having a lot of success. I was just getting started, so it wasn't like I had been looking for a long time with nothing, but hadn't really gotten a lot of feedback on my applications. And I thought that the one thing I hadn't tried yet and I hadn't really heard anyone talking about was applying at like local staffing agencies. And that's actually how I got a career started in mortgage. Is I got like into a small admin role with a local mortgage company through a staffing agency, and then ended up just kind of like turning that into a career. So I figured I would take a look. And the first day I was looking, I saw a job posting for a local nonprofit that was kind of seeking like multifaceted data professional. And to give you an idea of like what kind of jobs I was like applying for and what you can kind of look for when you're out there, this job description was really like intimidating, and they wanted a lot of things. They're like the word machine learning was on there. But I could kind of tell from reading it, like they were sort of not exactly sure what they wanted, and it seemed like they just needed a data person. And I imagined like local small nonprofit advertising for a staffing company in like a small town in Northwest Florida. That probably wasn't going to be a place where seasoned data analysts were like lining up to apply. So I applied and got into an interview right away. The interview went really well. I was the first person that like had applied and got in there, like working through just like conversationally with them. It was very clear like they were kind of not sure what they were looking for, and were just sort of looking for someone to figure that out with them. So it was really kind of like a perfect opportunity for someone that was just coming out of a program like Merit. And I don't know if I ever would have found something that was quite a nice fit like that if I hadn't looked locally. And obviously, depending on where you are, it's going to depend on like what's available. But I think that that is a really good place to kind of leverage your search, just because the people that you're going to be competing with in a job like that too, it's going to be a smaller pond. So if you're applying for remote positions, you might be competing with people from all different backgrounds all over the country. But if you kind of start small, then your competition is going to be small too. So just something to keep in mind. When I started the role, I was really nervous. I didn't feel like I had the ability to really do it. Like I knew what I was doing. I was thinking, you know, I did my capstone and I just got through Merit, and like I got through the interview and they liked me in the job application process, but like, have I just been tricking them this whole time? Have I been tricking myself? Like, am I really a data analyst? And that's totally normal, that kind of imposter syndrome following you even when you start a role. It's all kind of like on hands on the job, like learning things as you go. And in tech in general, there's so many different variables and programs and software iterations and all that kind of thing. That one thing I tell people as a data tech advisor a lot is that an employer isn't really going to expect you to know everything or to know how to do everything. In tech in general, it's kind of a situation where nobody really knows what they're doing, but they know how to figure it out really fast. And that's sort of what it's about, is just being able to kind of figure things out on the fly as you're going. And as I moved into the role and spent more time there, confidence grew a lot. So then I knew like I got my first role, but like what's next for me? You know, how am I gonna move out of this? I knew I was thinking of probably moving away from Pensacola and Florida soon. So I wanted to, you know, set myself up to expand and grow my career. So I've used a lot of different resources. I've used things on YouTube, which you're introduced to in your optional assignments as you're moving through the course. Lots of courses on Udemy. They have sales that make their courses really affordable sometimes and are worth picking one up every now and then if you think like, oh, I know I really want to learn more Python, and you see one on sale there for like $5 or $10, maybe that's a good thing to lean into. Salesforce has a lot of free resources on their website. They have something called Salesforce Trailhead, which can teach you all about the Salesforce platform, all about Tableau, all about all of their other platforms and their whole ecosystem that they have, which is really, really big, really cool. There's a lot of good opportunities for like networking and learning through Salesforce and kind of all the opportunities that they have. And with learning Tableau through your Coursera course, you kind of already have like a background into Salesforce a little bit there. But I used all those. I used more. I was kind of just trying to figure out like where I could learn and what sort of directions I could move in. I utilized my employer with United Way for growth. They were you know, wanting to make sure that I could contribute as much as I could. So they were really excited about, you know, do you need like a LinkedIn Learning membership? Like, how can we get you more resources to just be better at this? And so all of those things are kind of available as you progress through your career and as you get out there. You have to seek them out a lot, but the opportunities for continued growth are really, really available. And I think it's really important to take advantage of them because a career in tech is kind of like a constantly growing career and like a constant pursuit of self-improvement, just because the technology is changing so fast too. So after a few months into the year, I started the process of applying for a bachelor's degree program with Western Governors University. And with the Google Coursera certification that we get, you are automatically accepted into their programs. So they have a cybersecurity program, they have a data science program, they have computer science, they have just like general IT, cloud computing. They have a lot of different programs available for bachelor's degrees, all online. And with your certification that you get through the merit program, you can get accepted into that. So just kind of thinking of like doors this could open, there's a lot. And obviously like university degree is a big investment and like a big buy-in in terms of time. But again, just like thinking about like where you fit in and how you're going to progress. There's a lot of resources out there, and a lot of them are tailored for people that are sort of like us. Like, we're adults, we have full-time jobs, at least part-time jobs maybe, we have full-time family obligations. So these things are all tailored for people that have full life schedules outside of what they're learning. And so why am I doing this? Why do I think this is important? Because as I said before, a career in tech really is a lifelong commitment to learning and development. And as you're able to cast a wider net with your abilities and experiences and just things you can kind of generally speak to intelligently, you're really going to open up your opportunities really, really far and wide. And I think when you're just getting started in a career like this, it can be sort of a question mark, like, where does this all like lead to? what is my job role going to be 5-10 years from now, what it's going to look like. And honestly, I think it's almost impossible to tell. There's so many different directions that you can go and so many different random opportunities that can kind of just open up. You just have to be ready to jump on them when they are. And another thing that I added in here is look for mentorship wherever you can. It doesn't have to be like a one-on-one official mentor relationship. If you have like a job now where you might have like a coworker or a friend who does like a data adjacent role, that could be a mentor. Someone even just like someone who does like a YouTube series, you don't have to have like constant communication with them to be a mentor. I would say that my like mentorship experiences that I've received have just sort of been wherever I can find them. So just really be open to taking advantage of not only the learning opportunities that are out there and the kind of employment and experience opportunities, but also the opportunities for learning. Because again, there's a million different directions you can head from here. So there's a lot of different, like very valuable and valid people out there that can give you really good advice. So I know that like changing your career as an adult with a non-traditional education background is really intimidating and can feel impossible. I know that when I was going through merit and even before that, and even after starting at United Way, I had a lot of days where I woke up and I was just like, am I just like fooling myself? Am I just going to wake up one day and realize like this has just been a joke? Like, am I really capable of this? But I would say that you absolutely are. It's not easy, and getting that first job is always the biggest hurdle. It's a really, really big hurdle. It is, and it will be hard. But once you have that, the doors really kind of open up for you in a big way. And I would say, like, as we are coming from non-traditional backgrounds, it's easy to think maybe like, oh, I've never been a data analyst. I've never had a data role. Like, I don't know how I'm going to speak to anything in an interview. But a huge part of every data adjacent role is communication and people skills. There's some things where you might just be like managing a database and you might not have a lot of communication, but in general, data roles are about utilizing data for business and people improvements. And it's hard to do that if you don't also have like the people background to a degree. So with that said, if you've worked in customer service, if you've been a server, if you have ever done like retail, especially because that has like a customer service aspect, but then also like you're managing like an electronic payment system, and that might be going into some type of like spreadsheet that you are like taking inventory of. If you've ever touched anything even like remotely adjacent to that, you've got like firsthand, very applicable experience, and it's just a matter of figuring out sort of like how to package it. And that's like something that Merit is really, really good at helping us with from the professional side of things. But yeah, anything where you're sort of like working with people and you can kind of push like numbers of any kind into that environment as well, that will give you an in to like talk and speak to data things. Even if it's not like direct experience, it is still really valuable. And I've said before, there's like a lot of different directions your career could go. Just some really quick like data or data adjacent roles that I've seen and applied for: data analyst, database administrator, database architect, business analyst, Salesforce analyst, customer data manager, project manager, just analyst, data security analyst, project data analyst, not listed here, but one I just saw this morning. So many different job roles out there, and they're going to have a lot of similarities, but a lot of these are kind of very unique in what they do as well. Security analyst is sort of what I'm maybe leaning into a little bit with my education and then my work experience being in data. So that's like something that's interesting, but there's a lot of different just a lot of different positions and opportunities. And even just with the ones that I have listed here, the things that you can move on to after kind of like an entry level or base role, it sort of just opens up even more. And one thing that I have found as I've sort of been applying for jobs and kind of moving into a career more comfortably in data is that this really is largely a business role to varying degrees, but at the end of the day, it's about business improvements, and it's about being someone that can just make everything about the business run better and smoother, and more cleanly. And so thinking like long-term, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you can lean into the technical side of things and stay very much like I'm working with SQL, and I'm architecting databases, and I'm using like Python and R to do machine learning things. Or you could go the other direction and kind of move into like business and business administration and like people management and things like that. And a career in data just starting out, it really opens the doors for either one of those things, in a way that I think a lot of tech roles and tech backgrounds don't really do that. So if you're like just working as a software developer, you get a lot of business things in terms of like your day-to-day and kind of like project management that you're working adjacent to, but it's not really like data. Data is like, and again, this varies. You can have data roles that are like purely technical, but data really is like a tech and business kind of hybrid role, which I think is cool because it really opens up the opportunities for us. So like I put here, not going to sugarcoat it. Coming from a non-traditional work and education background does mean that things are going to be maybe a little harder. We might have to work harder. We might have to work longer. We might have to get really creative with how we're going to get our foot in the doors and market ourselves as employees. But it is totally achievable. I have done it. There's, you know, countless people who've been through Merit, from all the tracks that have done it. And just we have in our team meetings some shout outs occasionally from learners that have really like had a really great thing happen to them and have let someone from Merit know. And the directions that people can head in and the things that they can achieve even just shortly after the program is like breathtaking. It really is. And I've always said that like luck is just kind of the confluence of hard work and opportunity. And those opportunities are out there. So I just don't get discouraged. And as you're kind of getting into the job search, just try to keep in mind that the system works. It's just a matter of being diligent and sticking to it and not giving up. So as I've kind of moved through my career, I have had multiple jobs at a time. I went back to school. I just recently moved across the country, and the time management is really hard. Work-life balance is really hard. It's easy to feel like I'm either have like no life outside of kind of like work and school, and I'm kind of like meeting all my obligations, or I sort of am allowing myself to have some leisure time in life, and then I feel guilty about not working hard enough. So it really is kind of a balancing act. Trying to stick to like a strict schedule can be really beneficial. I know everybody's kind of different for how much they like that kind of thing. But I found I just really need to be gentle with myself and not be too hard on myself if I like miss a self-imposed deadline, or have kind of like an idea of when I'll accomplish something and maybe it doesn't happen. I just try to be as diligent and stick to my guns as much as I can, but also very willing to forgive myself when maybe I don't live up to my expectations. So to give you a brief overview of some things that I've seen for other learners as well as experienced myself, that were made possible directly by Merit. Industry leading certifications in addition to the Google cert that you get through the program. You're going to be in a great opportunity to lean into CompTIA certifications. The Google IT cert really runs along really well with the CompTIA A+ certification. And the Google Data Cert runs really well with the CompTIA Data certification, which is brand new. It just came out, I think, like 14 months ago. It just released, but that is like it's an entry-level certification. And I would say anyone that comes through the Coursera course for data and feels like pretty comfortable with it, has that CompTIA Data Plus certification like within an arm's reach. It'll take studying. and it'll take some time. But you've got like most of the foundation or more than a foundation to start studying that. And I actually just got my CompTIA A+ certification yesterday. I did the Google IT certification course a couple of years ago, right kind of before I started the merit program with the data side. So I sort of had a background there and been studying for it for a while, but hadn't gotten around to like finishing it off. So I just got that done yesterday, which is really exciting, and never would have like really been something that I followed through with without merit, definitely. And in addition to CompTIA, Salesforce, Microsoft, just to name a couple, there's a lot more. And the Salesforce Tableau program has a data analyst certification that is really really highly valued. It's like a very legitimate, and it's a difficult certification. I've been working on it for a while. I haven't gotten it yet, but that is one. If you get that, you can kind of, because it's vendor specific to the Tableau software, it really allows you to show like, hey, if anyone needs a Tableau person, like I can do this at a very high level. And that, I would say, is within striking distance after the Coursera course as well. It'll take like probably months of study and a lot of effort, but it's within striking distance. Whereas before going through this course, starting from scratch, it seems impossible maybe. Yeah, and Google has the cybersecurity cert. There's a lot of opportunities here, and there's a lot of other Coursera courses within and without, like that are Google, and Coursera courses that are not Google. There's just a lot out there, almost to an overwhelming degree, where it's like, where do I even focus? But as I said before, it started at WGU. I was accepted into the program because of the Coursera cert from Merit. And at the program I'm at, if I do get my degree, you're grandfathered into the master's program. So like automatic opportunity for master's degree without having to worry about like a GRE or anything like that. Like that's a really nice opportunity if I do take that. The networking that you will be introduced to is extremely valuable with Merit. At the end of the day, for a lot of people, that might be the most valuable thing that they get out of the program. With your fellow learners, with your coaches, with people that you might have reached out to or made contact to outside of the organization just because you were in the program. I know I reached back out to an old like teacher that I'd had almost a decade before during the merit program, because we had to ask for letters of recommendation. And I was sort of like, gosh, I don't know, like who could I reach out to? And I ended up reaching out to a lot of people, and that was one of them. And we've since connected, and we kind of chat on LinkedIn like every couple of weeks now. We'll send each other a message. And he is like has some supervisory role within the DoD down in Florida. So I don't live in Florida anymore, but if I did, that would be like a direct line potentially to something like within the public sector, which is a great place to work. So lots of opportunities can come from networking. The old cliche, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is true. And I think a lot of people that have come out of Merit can really speak to that with how it's benefited them. And last two things here, confidence and professional development. I personally got a lot from the professional side of Merit. I know that can feel maybe almost like a distraction because you want to focus so much on the technical side of things, and you want to get your understanding of that up. But as I sort of have touched on here, everything in data has a business side to it, or is business adjacent as well. So that professional development and the confidence to sort of give your professional introduction elevator pitch, the confidence to look at a job description and say, okay, I can kind of figure out how a cover letter would look for that just in my head already. All of those kind of things are extremely valuable. And that's the type of skill that will like propel you to big steps further on in your career. And then finally, huge increase in earnings potential. Obviously, at the end of the day, that's the main reason that we're all here. We want the opportunity to support ourselves and our family in a way that we know we can, but just haven't really figured out how to get there yet. So all of these things for me were really opened up by merit. I knew for years before I started the program that I wanted a career in tech. I didn't know exactly what it would look like. I didn't know where it would happen or how it would happen, but I knew I wanted it. And merit for me was really the thing that gave me the opportunity, that gave me the path to sort of say, okay, if I do work really hard and if I do put in the effort and the hours, I can actually get something back from this, which is for me was something that I hadn't found, that I'd been looking for. And it just felt like everything that I'd seen, there was such a huge buy-in in terms of money, or there was just not a lot of guarantee that anything good would come from it. And if you didn't get anything out of it, you would just be, kind of left holding the bag with this big buy-in of a year or 2 years and tens of thousands of dollars that you had to pay to get into like school program or some other boot camp or something like that. So it really allowed me to find a path for myself through this career and through a professional life in tech, without having to take such a chance in terms of like money and time and all of that, without knowing if it would sort of pay out. So finally here, just finishing off with technology and my career. I think I've touched on this a lot throughout this presentation, that like business side of things in data is a really big deal. And if you have customer service or any type of communication background with what you've done, that's a really good thing to learn into, or to lean into. And I would really say that like everything in this career sort of comes down to half technology and half people skills. You can really cover up the places where you might be sort of underexperienced on the technical side of things, or you might not be able to really speak perfectly to knowledge of a certain topic or a certain piece of software or something. But if you show that you have the ability to at least learn it, and then on the other side, you're going to be a good kind of cog within the business machine, for lack of a better word, that can really propel you in spite of like the technical things that you may feel you don't have at the beginning of your career. So being tech savvy just in general can help you use LinkedIn more effectively for networking. It can help you assist other coworkers with problems in the workplace, especially if you might have like a coworker who's not technically inclined at all, if they might be older and just sort of forced into a role where now they have to use technology and they maybe haven't for most of their career. Being tech savvy and again, sort of having that communication experience and customer service experience can really just help you be a like very positive employee in the workplace and help you sort of bring a lot more intangible things than just your technical knowledge of whatever software that you're using. And then of course, like the more knowledge that you have and the kind of more ability that you have to speak to these things can really help you contribute more in meetings, speak up and just be able to make a point about something. And that's kind of, I think the most impressive thing and the thing I like to talk about the most for my time at United Way is sort of related to that. It was involved with introducing and starting to onboard Tableau as something that they used there. So Tableau Public is used by a lot of United Ways around the country for like graphs and things on their websites and just general reporting that they do. It is public, so if the United Way is using all public data, which a lot of times they are, it's like a perfect fit and they don't have to pay anything for it. So I was sort of in the process of showing them, like proof of concept, proof of value, how this could contribute to the company and how it could actually be very valuable for us in terms of what we got out of it and how much we had to like pay and buy in to use it. And then was starting to basically educate the office on how we could collaborate with Tableau Public and how we could use it together to kind of do a lot more with data a lot easier. And sort of towards the end of that, I ended up moving kind of impromptu. So I didn't get to see that all the way through, but that was a really exciting thing to be a part of. And I think like anytime I've been able to bring that up in an interview or speak to it at all, it always gets a very positive reaction. I think it sounds very impressive from like a hiring manager standpoint. And so that is all for my presentation. I really appreciate everyone coming here and listening. I really am incredibly thankful for where I am in life right now. And everything that I've been able to accomplish and everything that seems to be on the horizon for me. And I attribute a lot of that to Merit and the opportunities that Merit has opened for me. So any opportunity I have to kind of pay that forward and contribute anything to anyone that's currently in the program or thinking of going into it is very exciting for me. So I really do appreciate your time here today and the opportunity to kind of share my experience with you. So thank you.
That was such an amazing presentation. I do have a couple of questions just like written down myself because
Yeah.
I find these presentations like so wonderful and I can even learn from them. One I have is, can you share some of the most rewarding and fulfilling aspects of your career being in data?
Yes. So I think that so at United Way, without going into too much of the way that United Ways work, they have something called the community investment process, which is a big part of how United Way kind of contributes to their local communities. They take in money through donations and workplace drives all year, and then local nonprofits in their like service area apply for a grant with United Way, and then they have the like community investment grant process where it's determined how that money will be distributed out to local nonprofits. And that is the team that I was officially on when I was at United Way, was the community investment team that handled that. And I was brought on sort of big picture to do like process improvements and like general data culture improvement kind of things. But specifically, I was brought on in the short term to really help that team and improve that process. So in the kind of way that the whole application worked and the way that everyone that was like volunteering and all the agencies and all of the people that were contributing money, they all did it through the database that I managed. They would log on to the database as like a customer and they would input their information. They would run through surveys, things like that. So the first thing that I did was redesign the application. I redesigned the survey, the evaluation forms with another partner on my team. We did that together. And then I went in and like managed the actual like structure of the database and how that would sort of look. And the community investment process at United Way of West Florida was really like one of the like linchpins of how that United Way contributes to the area. So it's really like important and big deal. And we went through the whole process while I was there from start to finish and got really incredible feedback about how much smoother it was, how much more clear everything was, how much better just like interacting with the database was from a customer and user perspective in terms of like ease of use and how instructions made more sense and things like that. And then through the evaluation and grant delivery process, same feedback in terms of our like executive committee working in the database and doing like final evaluations and things, just got like really stellar feedback all around. And so that was, I think, really easy to see how the things that I contributed while I was there like really had a huge impact on the community and on the United Way's ability to contribute to the community. And that's what it's all sort of about. And I have worked exclusively and applied exclusively for nonprofits since I left the Merit America program. And that is one reason why I really like working for nonprofits, is because it is sort of like about the mission at the end of the day. And, you know, anytime you're in a job, everyone is there for a paycheck. That's the idea. You're trying to survive and, you know, live a fulfilling life outside of work. But working in a nonprofit environment is not like working in a business enterprise environment at all. You're really there to like help people and impact positive change. So going through the community investment improvement process over the past year down there was really, really rewarding and exciting to see come to fruition.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you let us know, like, what is the most important piece of advice that you've received in your career and how has it influenced you?
I think the most is kind of it's kind of contradictory, but this is something that someone said to me in the heat of when I was working in the mortgage industry, and it was crazy and everyone was worried about layoffs, and things were really starting to get anxiety ridden. Um, Someone said to me, it's like whatever happens, it's not personal, it's business, but all business is personal. And I think I've sort of internalized that in a positive way, to think like everything that we're doing here is business. When you're working in an enterprise environment or even in a nonprofit, it's about the business, and it's about accomplishing business goals, and it's not supposed to be personal. It's supposed to be objective, and it's supposed to just be very, strict in terms of how things work and hierarchies and all of that kind of thing. And so if something happens and you get passed up for a promotion, or you don't get a job you think you should get, like, it's not personal, it's business. And to sort of just keep that in mind, especially going through changing careers and going into job success. A lot of opportunities to be let down in terms of job applications and interviews and things like that. So keeping in mind that none of this is personal, it's business. But then on the other side of things, all business is personal. And when you're on the other side of it, and you may be in a position where you have to make a tough decision that is going to impact someone, you might be making it from a business perspective, but it is a personal thing for them. So sort of always try to toe the line between being an objective business person and working towards the goals, while never losing your humanity and never losing sight that, anytime we're doing anything, it's all about people. It's all about the individuals that we're working with and that we're impacting and that we're helping. So really try to just keep in mind that you can do both, and you can have like both sets of values. And I think that serves you very well as you move through a career.
For sure. What advice would you give former Winter when she was just starting the program?
I think just believe in yourself. I know it's cliche, but it is really easy to get discouraged. And it's really easy to fail to figure out how it's going to happen for you, and sort of come across the vision of, I know I'm going to do this, and that's going to lead to step 2, and then I'll get step 3. That can sort of be hard to put your hands on when you're going through the program, and especially when you're starting out. But just trust the process and believe in yourself. um, know that you are, like, you're worthy, and you are worth this, and that you can accomplish this. It might not be your first try, and it might not happen right away, but you just have to trust the process and believe in yourself.
Do you have any advice on how to handle stress and burnout?
I think it's a really real thing, and it's a really real problem, and it's not easy to handle. I don't know that I really have a silver bullet answer. I have definitely, I mean, obviously stress is I think part of this when you're changing careers and going through something like this, but I've definitely experienced burnout. Like working lots of overtime and managing like work and maybe school and other obligations, and you think you're really just running on all cylinders, and all of a sudden you can't motivate yourself to try at anything for a year or 6 months. It can be like a really life impacting thing to come across burnout like that. I think that the most important thing to sort of avoid that I'm trying to focus on now is to just be gentle with myself, and to, again, like, if I miss a deadline, it's okay. If I think I'm gonna accomplish something in terms of like a promotion or like a job that I'm applying to, and I don't get it, that's okay. That I can sort of take a step back and just be gentle with myself and forgive myself, because I know in the past when I've sort of had my burnouts really start to get to me is when I'm sort of running on all cylinders and moving a million miles a minute, and everything's going really well, and then all of a sudden you have like you trip over yourself, you don't do well on an assignment, you have some thing at work that doesn't go well for you, you might fail to get like a promotion that you thought was coming, and then all of a sudden it just kind of all falls down around you, and you realize how hard you've been working and how you've been burning the candle on both ends, and sort of like this thing that takes the wind out of your sails is just the straw that broke the camel's back. So I think just like being willing to accept, I guess, like failures as they come, and be able to adapt to them and just sort of be okay with them as much as you can really go a long way to preventing the burnout when you are working really hard and kind of burning the candle on both ends.
Those were all of the questions from my end. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to come off of mute or drop them in the chat. We'll give it another 10, 20 seconds.
I have a question, and it mainly pertains to like the programming side or the coding side of being an IT professional. I'm currently in the process of just sort of learning the different languages, and um I have books and stuff, and I really love programming in general. I was wondering what you thought about using a website like Secure Code Warrior to practice and motivate myself to learn more of the different types of the languages in a more competitive way, because on here they have like tournaments and assignments and stuff that they have you do along with like they'll have like coding labs inside their websites, integrated into their website. And
Yeah, I think I'm not directly familiar with that website specifically, but I think those kind of things are really, really good. There's a lot of resources out there, and it can be hard to figure out like which one is the best, which one works for you the most, which one is like the most cost making sense. But really at the end of the day, it's sort of like dieting and exercise. Like whatever you do and whatever you stick with is the best and is the one you should probably be doing. And I think that anytime they add like some gamify things into it, like turning things into like a competition or having like a leaderboard kind of thing, I really like that. For me, I think that like really kind of gets me focused on it. So I think that sounds good. The learning that you'll get on that kind of thing is usually really good, especially anything that has like labs and hands-on like practical things.
yeah,
I think that's really good. With all of these topics in tech, you can only get so far, I think, with like book learning and lecturing. You really have to put your hands on it to sort of like round out your skills and understanding of it. So I think that sounds really good.
yeah. Yeah, I like it to practice, and then I like to go on Coursera and then get ahead on my work on Coursera, you know what I'm saying, and get those certifications done
Yeah.
too, on top of learning the languages. But yeah, that's what I'm into, and I you know, that's really what I was only really gonna ask. Like, there's a lot to learn, and I mean, really, they have different. They each have these languages each have different fields that they apply to.
Yeah, they
Like
do, for sure.
Python is mainly around data orientated analytics and stuff. So like I'm just learning like everybody else, you know.
Yeah, and Python is really great because it is probably the most multi-purpose programming language in use today. So it's used a lot for data, it's used a lot for statistics, it's used for like operating system scripting, it's used for just like general software and app development. So if you develop a really good understanding of Python, you can do a lot with that. And then if you do have to sort of learn another language for some reason, if you've got a really strong base with Python, learning another one is going to be a lot more trivial than it would be without that.